I mean, we've known that since the beginning.
I know, but now it's mainstream. It's okay to say that now,
Oh,
apparently.
it's okay to say that now. Well, that's so great. It's only what we've known since the beginning of disease. So thank you for that, media.
Stop appropriating my conspiracy theories.
When things are wrong, I'll be by your side. Even when you want to cry.
Stop
Stop it.
it. Welcome to the Naked Apple.
Welcome to the Naked Apple.
We are mic-less today, but we still have mics. Haha.
Yeah.
And
Trevor's is better than mine.
we will be mic-less next time. I almost said tomorrow, as if we record these back to back. Yeah, he thought it'd be fun to go to a country that pretends to be a first world country. And yeah.
Yeah, he's been texting us on and off. He's basically been saying how awful it is over there. So,
Well,
sounds like a good vacation.
How can we match the unprowess speed of their high-speed internet of 1 megabyte per second? How?
Oh.
How can we match that?
Yeah, no, I hear they updated the hierarchy of needs, putting Wi-Fi at the bottom and then food.
Yes.
That's how it is for me, anyway.
Right. Priorities. And if the rolling blackouts don't get you, the elephants and other things will too. So I guess. Oh, I didn't even think of that. I don't even have sound or anything for vitamin B. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, I figured we were gonna skip it because of Mike's not here.
Well, I don't know. We'll do these 3 or 4 headlines on their front page.
All
here,
right.
Probably.
Try to do it as well as Mike does it.
Yes. Let's see. Insert dramatic news music with some voiceover by myself. Da-ba-da, da-ba-da. Welcome to the Vitamin B. This week in headline news, Jesus decimates enrollment at Galilee's school for the blind. Town officials are concerned after receiving multiple complaints from faculty at Galilee's School for the Blind this week after Jesus of Nazareth healed some of their students.
That would put a damper on enrollment.
Some concern. 41,000 hours of January 6 tapes reveal AOC died 13,941 times. No wonder she's so nervous about it all.
Is that like a Marvel timeline? was Doctor Strange involved?
There's only one possibility where she lives.
And it's this timeline. Go figure.
Lent is coming up, if you weren't aware, and Biden has suggested that the residents of East Palestine give up drinking water for Lent. Fixing things in Ohio there. And finally, Hunter has asked his dad to pick up his paycheck while he's in Kiev. This has been...
Not related.
just happened to be... Forgot to change of address. This has been your short but sweet Vitamin B. Falls flat.
Well, not as good as Mike, but I'll take what we can because Vitamin B is hilarious.
It brings a little levity to the situation.
Yeah.
All right. So this week we are giving a test run, not a chest run, a test run of our new format we want to do. And if you care for it or don't care for it, let us know, and we'll decide if we want to accept or ignore your criticism. At least I'm honest. But yeah, with that, I'm gonna go through a montage of headlines that I pre-recorded, so I don't kill my voice off trying to burn through them this time around. And then we'll kind of discuss whatever stood out and whatever we feel like needs deeper digging. And then the last segment this week will be focusing on undercover video that happened in Utah with educators admitting to undercover video that they were skirting Utah law to teach CRT and other things. So, yeah. So, without further ado, I have absolutely no intro or anything for this figured out yet, so that's why it's a dry run, a test run of how this goes. But yeah, here we maybe go. Maybe. There. You see that, Keith?
Yes.
That means the audience will be able to see it. And
this
go.
week on the Weekly Bushel, a collection of headlines and stories from throughout the last week or so. A study published in PubMed in January of 2021 has found that egg yolks antibodies are excellent at blocking and binding multiple SARS-CoV-2 spike protein variants, which is fascinating considering that once it gained traction online, it is now bad to eat eggs because they can cause blood clotting. And
Wait, stop.
he says. Doesn't even want to wait till the end. He's just like, wait a minute.
Wait, since when was it bad to eat eggs? I thought everyone was clamoring to get eggs.
January 26, 2022.
So it's been bad to eat eggs for a year?
Yeah, it was updated February 3rd, 2023.
Well, I think eggs are delicious. I had 3 of them today, and I feel like a big shot.
How's your heart feeling? You feeling all right?
I mean, no complaints, no changes from yesterday.
I've got some questions for Gaston now that I think about it. What with his 5 dozen eggs? Anyway.
A lot of eggs. Okay.
The CDC has introduced special coding for hospitals and clinics to keep track of who is and is not vaccinated. The doctors ask if you are vaccinated or not, and the ICD-10 coding system is then implemented where they put in your medical records if you are or are not vaccinated, and also a special code as to why you are not vaccinated. If you missed it, some updates to the Chinese spy balloon from a couple weeks ago. It turns out the U.S. has been tracking it since it lifted off from China. But, that's not important, I guess, anymore, because we shot it down eventually. Speaking of shady American government things, Seymour Hersh published an article where he lays out how the United States blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Now, this is something that we have theorized about before, and not that this necessarily confirms it, but the story that he lays out is convincing, and the fact that it can't be dismissed outright is concerning. The Secret Service is been exposed in some emails as to their involvement with covering up some of Hunter Biden's illegal firearm stuff. They were in the emails. The agents were talking to each other and even mentioned things like maybe we are asked for a favor, because at the time they were not supposed to be involved with the Bidens at all. with Secret Service protection. One of them wrote, "It's kind of odd that we were involved in the missing gun investigation when neither Hunter or Joe were even receiving United States Secret Service protection at the time. Maybe we are asked to do a favor." The Pentagon is lobbying Congress to reactivate special operations programs in Ukraine after we just sent a bunch of tanks to Ukraine. But I'm sure that's all we're going to do. We're definitely not considering sending warplanes. Oh, we are. Lindsey Graham is wanting to send fighter jets to Ukraine. Oh well. Ohio is in the middle of what's being called a mini Chernobyl, or a United States Chernobyl, with a train that derailed and tanker cars filled with noxious plastic chemicals was exploded on purpose to try to prevent any harm from happening, and it appears that harm has indeed happened. And it's been going on 2 weeks now, 3 weeks, and people are still concerned that nothing's being done. Residents met in a town hall last week, and they were not happy. The train company was not present, and the line to get into town hall was a half-mile long in the town of East Palestine, Ohio. The FEMA has rejected Ohio's request for disaster aid to Ohio, saying that they didn't qualify for it because there wasn't a natural disaster that made this happen. And plus, you had Pete Buttstuff, who said that, look, rail safety is something, when asked about what's being done there, he said, look, rail safety is something that has evolved a lot over the years, but there's clearly more that needs to be done, because while this horrible situation has gotten a particularly high amount of attention, there are roughly 1,000 cases a year of train derailing. This happens all the time. You shouldn't make a big deal out of it, he says. By the way, he has not visited Ohio to survey the damage. Neither has Joe Biden, but Joe Biden did find time recently to go to Ukraine to tell them we're sending them a lot more money. Because, that's what we do. The EPA chief of EPA said it's all fine. Don't worry about it. Water's safe. Water is safe. Stop worrying. I said stop worrying about it. J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio, thinks otherwise.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Leslie Run, and there's dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water. So, something I just discovered is that if you scrape the creek bed, it's like chemical is coming out of the ground. Can you come here? And let me just show this to people. I don't know if you're going to see this in the camera, but watch this. Just see that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting. And the fact that we have not cleaned up the train crash, the fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine. Do not forget these people. We've got to keep applying pressure. That's how we're going to fix this problem. Thank you.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. There's other residents and reporters that are showing the same thing. Throws a rock in, and the stream is now oily.
Look at all that.
Look at it.
It's all
It is
in the
very
bottom of the
oily.
creek bed.
Wow.
Everywhere in the stream, all at once, turns into oil. Nice pretty colors, because that's what you're supposed to drink, is pretty bluish, purplish
look at it.
colors. Donald Trump announced that he is going to be visiting East Palestine. By the time of this recording gets out, he'll probably have already been there. It's probably mostly for show, since he doesn't have any political power other than being the sort of figurehead for the Republican Party and running for president with the next election. Outside of that, it'll be interesting to see what actually happens. Like, for example, a few hours after Trump announces that he's going to East Palestine, FEMA has changed its mind and said, actually, yes, we will send aid. In California, A teacher, a Christian teacher, has been fired for refusing to lie about kids' pronouns. She claims that the school district told her that if she doesn't use their pronouns, then use the students' pronouns and all that stuff, then she's going to be fired, and they followed through. She said, "I believe firmly that God created man and woman, and you are who you were made to be. And when someone has confusion about that, I believe that's lies and confusion from the devil." The school district denied that that's what they did, and stated that the district denies the allegations raised by Ms. Tapia. The district takes seriously its obligation to accommodate its employees' religious beliefs. That's fine and dandy. Simultaneously, the district is obligated to comply with all local, state, and federal laws, including anti-discrimination laws and laws that protect students' right to privacy, which are in place to protect the nearly 2,500 employees and 18,000 students we serve. A spokesperson for the district said employees are required to comply with state and federal laws protecting students' right to privacy, and also to allow students to use facilities consistent with their gender identity, regardless of the gender listed on the students' records. So the district stands by students having the right to privacy, even if it's living a life that is opposite of what their parents think that they're living, and is a life that leads to a 40+% suicide rate. Gotcha. In Florida, Ron DeSantis is signing some legislation that creates a digital Bill of Rights for the Sunshine State. It enshrines the following: the right to have private, in-person conversations without big tech surveillance, the right to participate in online platforms without unfair censorship, the right to know how internet search engines manipulate search results, the right to control personal data, and the right to protect children from online harms. It also requires Google and other large search engines operating in Florida to disclose whether they prioritize search results based on political or ideological views or monetary consideration. It bans use of TikTok and other social media platforms tied to China and other foreign countries of concern on all government devices, and bans the access of such platforms through internet services provided by any university, public school, or other government office. It ensures government devices and servers are protected from the security risks these platforms pose through their Chinese ties, and it ensures platforms are prohibited on premises where young people could be exposed to harmful content. It prohibits any Florida state or local government employee from coordinating with a big tech company to police or censor protected speech. It'll be fun to see how this is construed to be a bad thing. Somehow. But hey, did you see that we shot down some balloons?
We don't yet know exactly what these three objects were, but nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country. The intelligence community's current assessment is that these three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research. When I came into office, I instructed our intelligence community to take a...
Good job, Joe. So he shot down some hobby balloons with multi-million-dollar jets.
A bunch of hobbyists. He shot down those balloons.
Definitely not a distraction from everything else happening behind the scenes. Anyways, that is your weekly bushel.
There you have it. That was definitely longer than I planned it to be.
You know, it was difficult constraining myself from some of these articles because some
it's
of
a
these
lot.
articles are horrifying.
Yes, and it's also kind of a grapple of things from the last 2-3 weeks, just because of, well, we technically missed a week and double recorded, so we didn't have to record that 1 week. So, yeah. But anyways. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully those are more like 5 minutes or so in the future. So, what stood out to you there, Keith?
Talk to me about...
What was the worst of the bushel?
Tracking the unvaccinated. Talk to me about that one.
Tracking the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Yes. So this comes from... is it Redfield? Dr. Malone, I think, pointed this out. Is the one that kind of blew the whistle on this. So So yeah, back in September of 2021, the CDC created a new medical code in the ICD-10 coding system, where doctors can ask who has received the vaccine, who hasn't. And if they replied that they did not receive the vaccine, doctors would follow up with, why have you not received it yet? And they'd enter the related codes into the system. And the CDC would use that to, let's see. The ICD-10 coding system was created by the World Health Organization, and doctors are required to use it to categorize different kinds of patients. The ICD-10 codes are preserved in a patient's electronic health record and used by insurance companies for billing purposes.
Oh my gosh. For billing purposes? That's horrifying.
Sure it is. Sure it is. The CDC's National Center for Health Statistics maintains the ICD-10 codes. Within ICD-10 codes, there is a category known as ICD-10-CM codes, which are reportedly used by the CDC for tracking purposes. And this CM category includes the new unvaccinated for COVID-19 category, and also the partially vaccinated for COVID-19 category, and the other under-immunized status category. The committee made it clear that the new codes would be used to track unvaccinated people at the time of the meeting. People who had adverse reactions to a past vaccine would still be categorized as unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, even if they are physically unable to get more vaccines or boosters.
Well, isn't that terrific?
Yep. They implemented these codes to track unvaccinated people in April of 2022, according to a document published on a CMS federal government website.
Okay, so the point of the article is just that this tracking exists. So what was their stated reason again for doing all this?
Their stated reason was to let's see. During the current time of the COVID-19 pandemic, immunizations have provided protection for many people, but there is interest in being able to track people who are not immunized or only partially immunized. At the current time, this is a significant modifiable risk factor for morbidity and mortality and of interest for clinical reasons as well as of value for public health. NCHS is proposing creation of codes for unvaccinated for COVID-19 and partially vaccinated for COVID-19. That's why.
Okay, so they just want to track the people that are not fully immunized because that's like a health. Hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I thought the point of getting the boosters is because that immunization wears off over time. So isn't everyone not fully immunized?
No, silly
So
goose.
therefore, shouldn't everyone be tracked? And therefore, that would defeat the purpose of tracking?
Well, see, they already know who got the vaccine. They didn't have any way to track who did not get the vaccine. See that?
Yeah, I guess so. But still, if their stated purpose is because they want to track who's immune or not, that doesn't seem like a very good reason because anyone that's ever gotten COVID is also immunized. And even if they did get the vaccine is not all that effective. And so therefore, over time, after like 6 months or whatever, no one is immunized.
Did you see, I think it was CBS posted an article that natural immunity is just as good, if not better, than 2 shots of COVID?
I mean, we've known that since the beginning.
I know, but now it's mainstream. It's okay to say that now, apparently.
Oh, it's okay to say that now. Well, that's so great. You know, it's only what we've known since the beginning of disease. So thank you for that, media.
Stop appropriating my conspiracy theories.
Right?
I need to slap that on a shirt. Stop appropriating my conspiracy theories. I'm grabbing a pen. That's going to end up on a shirt.
All right. Let's see here. What were some other ones? Okay, so the U.S. has been tracking the Chinese spy balloon since it was released. So you're telling me that the U.S. government, they knew that this Chinese spy balloon was going around and being particularly interested in, what was it, our military bases, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, basically.
And
well, they figured it blew off course.
And the U.S. government was like, "Oh, it's okay. Let's politely wait for them to finish their mission because that's how it works with international rivals. Is we just wait for their spies to finish their mission and then escort them home, unless the public gets wind of it. Then we blow it up, but only after they complete their mission."
Yes.
Wasn't that so polite? Administration?
We are benevolent leaders of the world. Yeah.
Wonder why Putin waited to invade Ukraine until after Biden was elected.
It's even more fascinating too, because it was today I heard of one of the military advisors or chiefs or whatever talking about how they after this incident they had adjusted their after all these balloons that were popped. They said they've adjusted their radar so it can track these things, which is odd because they just stated that they've been tracking a balloon that took off in China since it took off from China.
Yeah.
So what are they adjusting?
Makes you think.
Makes you think.
Let's see here. Oh, and this one. I am probably not going to be able to restrain myself in the future while you're pre-recording talks about these headlines, so we're going to have to figure that out.
That's why I say hopefully they're shorter of like 5 minutes or something.
I mean, I had like a reaction for every one of these. Okay, so journalist lays out claim on how the U.S. destroyed NORAD Stream 2 pipeline. Now, this conspiracy theory has been out there for a while.
Yes.
Just to make sure, it's still a conspiracy theory at this point, right? We've confirmed so many. I've kind of lost track.
It's still considered that, yes, and it's odd because that journalist is a very lefty journalist. So
remind me of the background of the Nord Stream pipeline. That was a Russian oil pipeline, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
The Nord Stream 2 pipeline was put in place to pump oil directly from northern Russia to Germany through the whatever sea is there.
And wasn't it blown up pretty close to when the Ukraine conflict started?
Yes, and beforehand, Joe Biden mentioned that if Russia does anything to Ukraine, then Nord Stream would be no more. And a reporter asked, "Well, what do you mean by that?" "Oh, you'll just have to see, but we'll get it done." How? It's already built. It's already pumping oil. How are you gonna make it? And it's not in U.S. control. It's in German control. So how's that gonna work? And then one of his advisors seemed awful giddy after the pipe blew up. So
gotcha. So the conspiracy, does it say what the U.S. interest would have been to blow it up? Again, the conspiracy is that the United States blew it up. But like, if we assume that's true, what would the United States gain from doing that?
I think it was just to. I can't remember everything about this thing because some of the stuff he has does raise eyebrows right away of what now, but then other things of it is, I mean, yeah, that probably could have happened. But I think overall he doesn't necessarily say why it would have been done, but he explains that of how it was done, and then I guess the implications behind it.
Is that we did it.
It's more so like reporting, quote unquote, reporting on the story than it is of putting motive behind the story.
Well, as a great man once said, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am a coincidence noticer.
Yeah. He points out in his thing that Antony Blinken described the moment as a potentially good one of the worsening energy crisis in Europe. He said it's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs. That's very significant, and that offers tremendous strategic opportunity for the years to come. But meanwhile, we're determined to do everything we possibly can to make sure the consequences of all this are not borne by citizens of countries or, for that matter, around the world. So it was basically to cripple Russia, but Europe relies heavily on Russian energy because they've done the whole green energy thing in Europe, especially Germany.
No,
And
I hear that's worked out well for them.
Yeah, they're suffering a particularly hard winter, so their solar panels aren't working all that great, and there's no wind. So,
Well,
so it's going good. It's going good.
If only someone could have predicted that in order to get energy from solar and wind, you need, solar and wind.
It's the damnedest thing. Yeah.
But, it works fine on a small scale, usually. But when you, depend on your whole energy grid to be solar and wind, it's just a joke.
Yep. It's just asking for failure.
Yeah.
So, was that it? You got any more that were like,
Let's see. So my comments on the Secret Service was confused as to why it was asked to cover up Biden's illegal firearm. So the government agencies lying on behalf of illegal activities of an elected official. Well, I guess the relative of an elected official.
Well, he wasn't even elected at the time. He wasn't vice president at the time.
Oh, so this was presidency. What?
Yeah.
So this is a presidential. Was he at least a candidate at
Nope.
the time?
Nope.
No, really.
He was not
What
under the
in
purview
the-
of Secret Service protection, which means he was no longer vice president, because vice presidents do not get permanent Secret Service protection, and he wasn't a presidential candidate at the time. And Secret Service only offers presidential protection for presidential candidates, when it's clear that they're the last two candidates.
Okay, so it sounds to me that the higher ups in the swamp, shall we call them, they were insiders and knew that Joe Biden would run, and possibly they were insiders to know that Joe Biden would win, allegedly.
I couldn't possibly predict anything like that.
And therefore, because they were insiders and high officials in the swamp, they're like, hey, let's not let any negative information about Hunter Biden leak out there because it could, damage the future president.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that terrific use of our tax dollars?
It's the best use, really. One reason why I picked out these headlines and a big chunk on the Ohio thing is all of these happened while we were focused on balloons in the sky. All of this stuff came out during that time. Except the egg yolk thing. That was earlier.
That was a while ago. Yeah.
It's been sitting in my queue for a while. So outside of that, all the other stuff was while we were worried about balloons maybe being aliens. Turns out they were hobby balloons.
Well, sir. So basically, the news cycle is often meant to be a distraction.
Yes, that's no moon.
Serenity now.
Yeah. And then I threw in the California teacher being fired because of her religious views. Because it's related to what we'll talk about here in a second. Because that seems like it's a pretty cut and dry win in the Supreme Court for her.
Yeah.
Because
I'm really interested to see how the liberal justices would rule on a case like that because, usually we know how they rule, but on cases that are very clear cut, then occasionally we'll get a 9-9 or 9-0.
Yeah, she supposedly has documentation of them saying specifically because you won't do this because of your religion, you're gonna be let go.
Oh yeah, that's a clear cut.
So it's like, no.
And a pretty clear cut lawsuit too. So
yes.
wow.
Yeah,
It's like it's the best thing to ever happen to her.
Yeah, and especially when the district's response is, we deny these things. Of course they do. And they take seriously to accommodate religious beliefs. Sure you do. Simultaneously, the district is obligated to comply with all local, state, and federal laws. Okay. Including anti-discrimination laws and laws that protect students' right to privacy, blah, 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 blah.
From their parents. Yeah, I'm sure that's in the law.
Yeah. Well, it's California, so... Yeah. And that's one thing that could be interesting with that, too, is if that comes up, then the Supreme Court could strike down that California law. Okay, no.
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Then California will be seeking to secede from the Union. That would make things easier.
Well, don't threaten me with a good time. So... Something that happened, when did you send this to us, Keith? Was it beginning of January, middle of January?
Something it was like that? 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was like 3 weeks ago. No, I think I think it was January 31st. Yeah.
The end of January.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So, an undercover video from Accuracy in Media shows various Utah educators, administrators talking about how they violated CRT, Utah's CRT laws. And well, it's fun. It's a fun one. Let's have a little look-see here.
There's like loopholes with it.
So again, this is happening in Utah.
In Utah. Yeah.
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory.
The hot topic of critical race theory may now become front and center here in Utah.
Oh, it is.
I'm Adam Gillette with Accuracy Media,
let's see.
and
Let's
today's
skip ahead
installment of our
to
investigation into public.
Yeah.
There.
The work that him and Glenn, Dr. G do. Like, yeah.
This is Jordan School District.
Helping teacher front load some of those lessons that might be considered, like CRT or white privilege, things like that. How to name things and talk about things.
What are you going to do if they pass one of those stupid, anti-CRT laws? Even if you're not teaching it, in Texas it ends up hitting other things.
They're not going to pursue it like they would in Texas.
Really?
I really don't think so.
Okay.
Well, they've kind of gone around it because it just shows, the board did, state board did a definition of what is equity and what is contained in schools, and they have a whole policy on professional development around equity. And so professional development, and so there's loopholes with it that it just goes back to the LEA for equity and for things. And so whenever our team goes out, we don't do an opt-out prior to. They just go out, meet the kids.
Oh.
We operate like a math department.
We don't get parents'
And
permission
then
to do
give a
this. We just
letter
do it.
after they go out saying, we were in your school, and this is what they talked about.
That's right. They don't even give parents an opportunity to opt out. I guess they believe better to ask forgiveness than ask permission. Is that really the attitude that you want public school administrators to have towards your child?
No.
We have a teacher at the high school, and his name's Isaac. When all
Murray
of this stuff
School
happened,
District.
he had Black Lives Matter flag, great big one. And he was just loud and proud. And even after the board said, you can't have a flag bigger than the American flag.
That's fair.
It was huge. It was huge. Bigger than the American flag. You got to. And he was like, no, I'm not going to. And whereas other teachers were fearful, right?
Right.
He was like, fire me. Right? And he's got enough tenure, and they're like, oh, okay. He's like, right, yep, fire me.
But he has backing from the union.
Yeah.
Oh, good. The union's behind him. It's fine.
I often make the point that these administrators and educators that we capture aren't terrible people. They're not one-dimensional villains. They mean well by your child. But what they view as in the best interest of your child might be dramatically different from what you view as in the best interest of your child. But it also speaks to how powerful the union is, how unaccountable these teachers are, that they can do whatever they want and not even fear being reprimanded by the district.
Before I was in this role,
Back to Jordan School District.
my department did a discourse unit on social justice issues.
What does the MAGA crowd or the church say when you start talking about social justice?
You teach it to a group of seniors at West Jordan High, and they don't.
It's an elective. Yeah.
Well, it was a required class. It was English 12.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say?
Oh, so
later
nothing to
years,
do
like
with
high
English.
School or even middle school,
Back
do
to
they
Murray?
get any social justice?
Yeah, yeah. In junior high, yes.
There are things as a high school teacher that frustrated
Back to
me.
Jordan.
Like, you can't ask for pronouns. That they made that law. I still did, and
Okay.
a lot of the high school teachers I know, especially in the English department, because we were like, "This is bull crap." Like, we still did.
The president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, once said she would start caring about children once children started paying union dues. These incredibly powerful teachers' unions are the biggest donors in American politics. They donate more money than George Soros and Charles Koch.
Yeah, they donate enough to make your governor veto a bill that gives you school choice.
To push social justice into your schools.
The American Federation of Teachers and
Salt Lake City School
several
District.
other groups, they have this curriculum that they bring in, and we have trainers. So we've had train the trainers, so now we've had trainers internally in our district to train on social justice and NEA programs about that.
Culture diversity specialists go out and they talk to students about
Jordan is the main
what is
highlight on this one.
diversity, what is microaggressions, especially at the middle school level,
That's
and have those conversations. So even with the national pushback of the craziness, our board was supportive and our superintendent continually supportive.
We hear a lot about social and emotional learning, SEL, which is often, but not always, a Trojan horse to push the principles of critical race theory. And when parents speak out against it and demand a different curriculum for their child, they often get deceived.
We have an SEL curriculum in every school, and that is
Ogden.
expectation.
Nice.
That comes from the legislature, you guys.
Nice.
Even with that woke curriculum. So I came up with an alternate curriculum for that child. It is still an SEL curriculum. Right? I was like, so how about your child do this and this and this during that time? That sounds fantastic.
And it's the same
Usually, well, of course it's not, but it's for this, it meets the same objectives.
Okay.
It meets the
Publicly,
same objective.
administrators
Fantastic.
tell parents
She's
that
so
if they
proud
don't
of
like the
herself.
resources and books their children are being forced to read, that they can speak up about it. But privately, they sing a very different tune.
We do have a procedure where anybody could challenge a book, and we would follow that procedure and that state policy.
Hopefully it's a difficult process, though.
It's really, really horribly hard.
I love to hear that.
And it's horribly hard for everybody. So I'm having a hard time envisioning a lot of people following through with this.
We've always had a policy.
Oh, so it's intentionally designed to be like that.
About appealing curriculum, including appealing books, and it has to follow a pretty strict process of anybody who requests the book to be banned has to have read the entire book, and their child has to have read the entire book, and then they have to meet with a committee that includes parents and teachers and administrators and district people. And
So they make it pretty difficult.
It is.
And teachers unions
Oh,
aren't the only far-left
that's nice.
organizations that are brought into public education in Utah. They're also bringing in Planned Parenthood.
We have a very close partnership with Planned Parenthood.
Oh, of
They
course they
speak
do.
In our district all the time.
Oh,
that's awesome.
So that's different than other places. in
Yeah,
Utah.
that's so
Because
awesome.
other places
Dude's
like
just baiting her.
I mean, you still probably use Planned Parenthood resources.
Oh yeah, in our district we definitely do, and they have. I mean, they guest speak. Not just do they have curriculum in our classrooms, but the Planned Parenthood people come in and speak in our high schools and in our junior highs and things like that.
Well, I imagine you probably don't lead with telling the MAGA parents that we're bringing in Planned Parenthood.
No, we don't do that, but they, it's all published on their website and like all the resources that we use and that kind of thing. So anybody can look at any time and see what we're using or what those options are. But
Yeah, but thankfully, normally they don't actually look.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, credit to that
Oh.
district for not entirely hiding the fact that they're working with Planned Parenthood, but how vigilant should parents have to be in order to make sure that their children are being educated rather than indoctrinated? But maybe you want that for your child. And it's for that reason that the best solution to this problem is school choice.
Yes.
We should fund students, not
So much
systems. Parents should be the ones to determine what types of organizations come in and talk to their children every year. Again, I'm Adam Gillette with Accuracy in Media.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. So, yeah.
Oh, there's a lot to unpack here.
Excuse me.
Basically, there are a lot of teachers. I mean, it seemed from that video that like there's a lot of teachers. You know, I don't know the proportion, you know, because I also know there's lots of good teachers out there, public school system, but like there are administrators where their objective is to continue to teach critical race theory. It's like their life's purpose. Like, how do you develop that paradigm that you're like, yes, I must teach that racism is all around us? What's that Empire Strikes Back quote? Hold on, I'm going to look it up. Okay, here it is. It says, "For my ally is the force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us, binds us." Is there a secret Yoda that I don't know about where it's racism? Or my ally is the racism, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. It is racism or something, whatever. You know, like I feel like how do you get indoctrinated to that point where that becomes your life mission to evangelize these to unsuspecting parents and unconsenting children? Explain that one to me.
Yeah, it's a fascinating fascination they have with it, really, and any progressive idea, really. It's like all of a sudden it has to be the thing. Well, first they have to deny it and deny it and deny it and deny it, and then all of a sudden it's, yeah, of course we're doing that, why don't you accept it? Now, wait,
you told me that you haven't been doing it. Like, to this day, mainstream media people like who's the leftist pope, John Oliver. I'm thinking about John Oliver. Like, literally, it's a propaganda session every time that show comes on. But yeah, like, he had a whole segment where his whole point is that CRT is not being taught in schools. And it's ridiculous if you think that. And these teachers, like, we caught them on camera saying, like, well, how are we going to get around CRT if it's banned in our state?
Yeah. Yeah, so just a little flashback. Back in June of 2021, when states started to pay attention to this and pass laws to stop the teaching of CRT, Mike and I even did a whole thing on CRT and where it comes from. That was a fun one, delving into it takes all of like 25 seconds to find out that it's Marxism.
Yeah, that's what SEL is. Social emotional learning is a Trojan horse. They're like, oh, you know, it's you know, teaching kids about their emotions and how to get along with each other. When no, it's really about critical race theory. It teaches you like about like trauma or something, how everyone has trauma. Oh, and what's that trauma? Well, it's the sins of your racist ancestors or something like that.
Yeah. I think what we did is we used Wikipedia we typed in critical race theory. Wikipedia was the first link, went to that, and it had a link to race theory, or critical theory, I mean. So we clicked on that, and then critical theory referenced something else. I can't remember what it was, and you click on that, and Karl Marx came up with that idea. Okay. It's 3 steps from Marx, basically. But yeah, back in June of 2021.
Well, I feel vindicated because, like I said, everything leads to communism.
It's just communism. Keith's razor.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this article from NBC News, teaching critical race theory isn't happening in classrooms, teachers say in survey. We don't get it. This objection is being pushed upon us, and it's not even happening in our classes, an English teacher in Phoenix area said. Then you won't oppose it being banned from teaching, right? If it's not happening, and you hear that it's so bad from everyone, why are you worried that it's going to be banned from being taught?
I ask myself that question every day.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not being taught. Well, anyways, it got enough attention that local news here in Utah took up the story and asked some questions and got some general responses from the various boards of education. The Ogden statement is interesting because it's extremely long and they try to just deflect to SEL, and we don't teach that stuff, so it's just SEL. Don't worry about it.
It's just like learning to be social.
Yeah. And it's still got enough attention that national news picked it up. Fox News has a segment
the
on
Utah
it.
story. The Utah story made it to national news.
Yeah, it made it to Fox News with Jesse Waters.
Cool.
I won't bore us with that clip because it's basically him talking about this. But it's there if you want to go watch it, because
right.
This group, Accuracy Media, was in Ohio, and then they and did a bunch of expose stuff there, and then they released this one from Utah. So they're just going around the country exposing stuff. The Daily Caller even had a article on it of teachers doing what they can to exploit loopholes and go around the law so they can teach this stuff. And Representative Chris Stewart from Utah even commented on it, saying that this is arrogant and repulsive, and he said he looks forward to getting the whole video from Accuracy and Media, which, is fair, to make sure their full context is understood. However, based off what I saw, I think enough context is there to understand that they know they're doing what they shouldn't do. Especially that lady in Ogden I just give them something different that achieves the same objective. All right then. The state school board did release a statement as the elected leadership team for the Utah State Board of Education. We are aware of recent allegations against several school districts regarding potential disregard for law or rule of divisive topics being taught within the school setting. All administrators and educators are required to abide by Utah law, board administrative rules, and official policy, including R2773-328 Education Equity in Schools. As the state's oversight entity for all public education, Utah State's Board of Education will review all the allegations to determine what appropriate action is necessary. Stripping them of their licenses would be the appropriate action. Additionally, we are continually working to improve our policies and rules to ensure compliance with Utah law. Notification policies and transparency with parents must be a priority within the public school system. Yes, transparency. So I reached out to try to get emails from to try to get some sort of communication from the parties involved, and got nothing personally, but someone that I know who has quite the connection with the Jordan School District reached out almost right away and got some responses. Most of them were pretty vanilla responses.
PR responses?
Basically. Like the Jordan School District's response is, the video that has been shared online is incomplete and misleading. We do not teach critical race theory in Jordan School District. We value parent participation in each child's education and respect a parent's right to opt out of classroom content according to district policy.
That Ogden teacher that says, oh, well, yes, we understand if you don't want your child to teach SEL, so how about you use this other curriculum that I designed? And the parents are like, oh, okay. And then she says, yeah, that alternate curriculum, it meets the same objectives.
Yeah.
That's misleading, huh?
Yeah, and the Jordan School District side is the one lady
that wasn't.
That was Ogden. But the Jordan
still.
School District side, there's the one lady that said, we just do it, and then we send out a thing afterwards letting the parents know, hey, we were in your school, this is what we talked about. Oh, so you didn't get permission beforehand, you're just, like the guy said, asking for forgiveness later. I just love we don't teach critical race theory in Jordan School District. We're not questioning whether or not the district itself is teaching critical race theory. The question is, are you doing anything to make sure your teachers are not teaching critical race theory? We understand you have that rule. what are you doing about those that violate the rule? Also, the state senator that helped write the legislation, it's hilarious because he responded to this person I know plus everyone else that he emailed in the school district. I've seen the video and we're looking at it. It's just, you're all on notice.
Well, it's fantastic.
It says, at this point, it appears to be a matter for the district to address with their employees, and he hopes that the full unedited videos will be made available so that such decisions can be based on all relevant facts, which is, again, fair.
Yeah, do we have the unedited video somewhere?
No, I reached out to Accuracy Media, and they did not respond at all. I asked them if it'd be possible to get the full video or to have better context and how they did it and blah, 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 and no response. I guess we're not important enough yet.
Well, that would be really useful.
Yeah. This is all to show, it's very easy to think, well, it's not my state that has that problem. It's not my school district. It's not my elementary school. It's it's very easy to get into that mindset when you see all these stories happening around the country. But then suddenly it's happening in your neck of the woods, and now you got to scramble to figure out how to go about undoing whatever they did, which is problematic because, well, they've already did it. And now you're on the defensive instead of offensive, on your heels. No, this is wrong. Well, they have tenure. Well, it's bad that they have tenure. Tenure needs to go away.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to be a way to, protect the teachers' freedom to explore have academic freedom or whatever. But at least that's true on the college level. I don't even know what the point of tenure is on the the high school or public school level.
Right. I think tenure is fine and all as far as, internal affair type things, but it shouldn't do anything when it's hey, you can't have that because it violates the district rules of having a flag bigger than the U.S. flag.
Yeah.
Well, you can't fire me because I have tenure. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. No.
Yeah, no.
You broke the rules of your employer. The employer has every right to fire you.
Yeah.
Especially in Utah, which is a right-to-work state.
Yeah.
And a right to fire. Yeah. One thing I saw that I think is a fantastic solution for education, aside from school choice, is for public education, at least, teachers should be required to have X number of years experience in the private sector doing some sort of job before they're allowed to be a teacher.
Oh, that's interesting.
So ideally it would be in a related field of what they're teaching because, that's what education used to be. Instead of going to school to learn how to teach people about how to learn in school.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's true. That is what teaching used to be. It's like, oh, we want more people in society to learn these skills. Hey, who already has these skills?
Yeah.
People who did the job that needs to be done more in society,
Yeah.
And now, we just hire people that learn how to learn to teach things that they've never actually done. Terrific.
They don't even learn how to learn. They learn what to learn.
Yeah.
And then they teach people what to learn.
Yeah. Anyway, we need to bring apprenticeships back. That needs to be a thing again.
100%. One thing I loved about, so I went to a tech school to get a certificate, And my math teacher in that tech school, I got a certificate in machining, and my math teacher was a machinist.
Nice.
And
so they didn't have your math teacher didn't actually have the normal credentials to teach math?
No, she did, but she also was a machinist.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so whenever a question came up of how will I use this, she could turn around and say, well, for calculus, you're going to be using this and this and this, so you could do this, so that allows you to machine this in machining. Like, okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's also when I learned that trigonometry is actually about circles, not triangles.
I'm sorry, what?
The study of trigonometry is to use triangles to measure circles.
Yes. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yes. Trigonometry is actually about circles, not triangles.
Yes. Okay. That took me a second to understand.
Wait,
we
what?
are measuring triangles, but yeah, like measuring the angles and stuff and the ratios between them. Yeah, that has to do with circles.
Yes, because you learn that only certain circles fit certain triangles.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I mean, that was what my degree was in, so we can geek out about math.
We can geek on that.
I don't know how our audience would feel about that, though.
But yeah, things like that I think could help fix our educational system because, you go to history, and your history teacher, they either did something in the world of history of maybe they were an archaeologist of some sort, or they just have experience working at some factory or whatever business, and then they come to the school and they help you understand that how will this help me in life? Well, I used it in this instead of another experience I had in college before I stopped going to college, realizing it was all a sham and a joke for me personally.
Right.
But I'm in math class in calculus, and person asked, what is this even going to be used for? And the teacher's, it's finding as close to zero as you can get without actually getting to zero. And I knew what it was because I was going engineering, and I'm like, it's so you can understand like the max weight a plane can carry before it doesn't have enough lift or something like that.
Yeah.
And this teacher, this is her first year teaching math, and she's starting off as a college math professor teaching calculus. So she went to school to be a teacher to teach math to college.
Yeah, no, that was the same thing. So quick tangent about math.
her response was...
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Her response was, I don't know, scientists might use it to find like where a fly is in a room at some point or something. I was like, okay, I'm done. You have no idea what this is, what you're teaching. I'm not wasting my money on this anymore.
Yeah, no, I always wanted to be a math professor when I was like all through high school or whatever. My plan was to get a PhD in math, or at least a master's degree, so I could go teach math on the college level. But I got to my senior year of being a math major, and I like when you get that high, like your junior and senior level of a math major, like it completely changes. It goes from like things like calculus to proofs, and proofs are completely different.
Right.
And I was not particularly passionate about the proofs part. Like I loved calculus and stuff, but once we got to the proofs stuff, like I did fine in them, but I just didn't find it nearly as interesting as working with actual numbers. And I remember sitting in class one time and the teacher was going through the proofs or whatever, and I was thinking to myself, I am never going to use this the rest of my life. And I want to be a math professor.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I will say though, my quick tangent on defending, what math skills are used for. So one thing it's helped me on, it has strengthened my subconscious a whole lot, because when you understand the proportion of things, it's like when someone tells you something, you kind of get a sense on whether or not it's bullcrap or not.
Right.
Maybe that's why I took up
the math doesn't add up.
Raw math is not the only way to develop that skill, obviously, but
yes.
I noticed a contrast to when I went back to school to finish my math degree and my state of mind before that, and it's like a night and day difference for me. And I would say just understanding a sense of proportion is probably the most useful day-to-day thing that I've noticed. Because I would say the average person does not understand scale one bit.
Right.
You know, like, I think that's the most useful skill that the average person can learn that, generally speaking, they don't know anything about.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that where teachers can have some sort of real-world experience. So whatever it is they're teaching, they can apply that to their teaching method to kids. So then when kids do ask those questions, how is this even going to be used in my life? The teacher can then respond with, well, this, this, and this. Or they can say, I know this person did this for a living. Go talk to them.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, I did ask that question of, like, what am I going to do with this in my life? I asked that to multiple teachers, and most of the teachers were like, teach?
Yeah.
Because that's what they spent their whole life doing, and that's what they ended up doing.
And that's all they know.
They don't have any experience outside of that.
Yep.
But like, I've been able to come up with much better answers to that since I have had multiple jobs outside of the teaching realm since then.
Right. And they grow up basically in this atmosphere where, so even as a student in school, the student that violates the rules doesn't get punished as much as the student that stops the student from violating the rules. Right? So like, you got the bullying thing going on, and the kid finally hits the bully back, and the kid that was being bullied is in trouble just as much, as not more, than the kid that's been beating him up the whole time.
Yep. No, I've seen that in my life. That's absolutely true.
So they grow up in that system as students, and then they get into the education field where, well, you have tenure now. The longer you stay, the more you can get away with. Yeah. It's essentially what they're taught. Whereas the real world would tell them, no, you can't do that. That's against the policy of the company. You're fired.
Yeah. Well, speaking of trigonometry, that was a wonderful tangent. That's a math joke for you.
Zing. Zing.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's... Okay, going back to the teachers teaching critical race theory behind the parents' back. My general comment on that is, this is bullcrap. Like, I would love to send my kids to public schools, but with these sorts of teachers lurking around, I just don't see that as an option.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If they are going to try to circumvent the rule, like, not just the rules, but the law, to teach critical race theory against the wishes of most of the parents, and they know it's against the wishes of the parents, but they do it because they're ideologically driven to teach this crap. Like, how? Like, how?
And like I said, they grew up in an environment without repercussions for actions.
Yeah. So I just don't see it as an option to send my kids to public school. It seems to me like school choice is the only option to move forward, because these teachers, like, there are plenty of parents that think these teachers are, like, heroic or whatever because they're teaching their ideology, which I don't understand at all. Like, I really don't understand how someone could be indoctrinated to that degree to actually believe that crap. To the point where they want their kids to learn it, they want everyone else's kids to learn it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And like, what they're pushing is they're pushing things like, oh, your child, maybe they're a boy, or maybe they're a girl, even though they were born a boy, or, like, that sort of thing. Like, if we can agree on what constitutes as child abuse, then I just don't want those people in my society. Like, I think separate institutions is the only way moving forward.
And just so you know, it's bad. Conversion therapy is bad. Unless you are converting them to believe the woke stuff that you believe, then conversion therapy is okay.
No, yeah. Speaking of the gay conversion therapy stuff, like, that's the definition in Canada, is that it is like literally criminal to try to convince a gay person that maybe he might be straight or even talk about that possibility. That is literally criminal. But it is A-okay to try to convince a straight person that they might be gay.
To do it the other way around, yeah.
Yeah, like, and that's the definition of conversion therapy. They changed the definition to say that, oh, it only counts if it's going from a, you know, I forget the terminology that they used, but like an LGBT person to a straight person. Like, that's the only direction that it's allowed to go. Then it's criminal, but if you do it in the other direction, like, oh, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
You know, in Canada, at least, that's in the law.
And also, to be clear, I'm fine with critical race theory being taught about, just as much as I'm fine with students learning about Karl Marx and Marxism. Because you need to know about all these things.
Sure.
And real education teaches you about things and then allows you to draw conclusions on what is or is not a good thing.
Sure. Yeah, like I remember I had a world religions unit in middle school, and the way it was presented is like some people believe this, some people believe this, and some people believe this, you know, and didn't like say, oh, this one's good and this one's bad or whatever.
Right.
But that seems to be what they're doing. Like, they're literally trying to convince white kids that being white is bad and oppressive because of what your ancestors did or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then they have the pride flag and whatever other symbolism all around the place, whereas if a Christian teacher put the cross up in the classroom, they'd be hung and drawn and quartered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's different.
Oh.
No, it is not.
No, not at all.
Anyways, that's all that. It's pay attention to what's going on in your backyard, because what happens in the backyard, the reason why we're seeing all this ish on the national and global level is because we stopped paying attention to it in our own homes, basically. And it's only spread from there into a bigger problem, and then it feeds off of each other into worse and worse problems.
Yeah. Well, I want to build on that real quick. Trevor, I sent you an email with a couple of links of my own. Can you pull that up?
Yes.
Can you play the clip that says Jordan Peterson's take on white privilege? I think that builds up to that point.
You know, I think the idea of white privilege is absolutely reprehensible. And it's not because white people aren't privileged. You know, we have all sorts of privileges, and most people have privileges of all sorts, and you should be grateful for your privileges and work to deserve them, I would say. But the idea that you can target an ethnic group with a collective crime, regardless of the specific innocence or guilt of the constituent elements of that group, there is absolutely nothing that's more racist than that. It's absolutely abhorrent.
Thank you.
I mean, that if you really want to know more about that sort of thing, you should read about the kulaks in the Soviet Union in the 1920s, Kulaks, because they were farmers who were very productive. They were the most productive element of the agricultural strata in Russia, and they were virtually all killed or raped and robbed by the collectivists, who insisted that because they showed signs of wealth, they were criminals and robbers. So, and one of the consequences of the prosecution of the kulaks was the death of 6 million Ukrainians from a famine in the 1930s. The idea of collectively held guilt at the level of the individual as a legal or philosophical principle is dangerous. It's precisely the sort of danger that people who are really looking for trouble would push. So, and just a cursory glance at 20th century history should teach anyone who wants to know exactly how unacceptable that is.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, Jordan Peterson, like, again, he's basically saying that teaching a particular ethnic group that they're evil for being that race, I mean, there is nothing more racist than that.
Yes.
And if you can go to the next clip, the one that I labeled the white guilt narrative is used as justification for rioting.
Ooh, Rumble.
Yeah. That one, I had to get that one off of Rumble.
I don't know how loud this one's going to be for you. Let's see. because we didn't test Rumble's audio.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we didn't.
I know that there are protests still happening in major cities across the United States. I'm just not seeing the reporting on it that I had
that's right.
for the first few weeks.
That's right. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not, this is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not.
Anyway.
Yeah, that
was the vice president, or I guess she was a candidate at the time. But the point is that's where this ideology leads. Like you think it's so innocent teaching this to kids or whatever. It's like, oh, it's just to help black people or whatever. But no, you're teaching the white guilt narrative, and then that instills a sense of like a need for recompense, and that's used as justification for rioting. The vice president in that clip, she was encouraging rioting, is what she was doing.
Yes.
So,
organizations like the Ku Klux Klan didn't just begin the way that we know them now. It started off with a few people that had an idea that they thought they were better than another group of people just because of skin color. And from there, it grew into this whole movement that could not stop, would not stop, until they accomplished the things they wanted to accomplish. And it led to civil war.
You said that was the KKK?
That was the KKK. Yeah. Likewise, we have Black Lives Matter that started out not as we know them now, or even as in the summer of 2020, but started out as an idea that, well, I'm just this way because I'm oppressed. Oppressed by who? Well, the white man. Oh, okay, so the white man's the bad guy? Yeah, the white man's the bad guy, has been forever, and I'm oppressed because of it. What about all these things that you're able to have in current society? That doesn't matter because I'm oppressed. It's the same thing. It's the same origin story.
Anyway, so this ideology, it's giving them some kind of a victim narrative that justifies them doing horrible things to innocent people. I couldn't find the clips of this, but I've seen clips of people justifying their rioting, saying things like, "Oh, well, white people own slaves, so we are taking what's rightfully ours." Or it's okay because they have insurance or whatever. Because
those were all over the place in 2020. Yeah, during those riots. So,
anyway, the point is like instilling this ideology leads to violence, and like, isn't the left all about like, oh, this narrative is leading to violence, therefore we should ban Trump from Twitter or whatever? But we had the vice president encouraging the riots.
Yeah.
Why is social media not taking action against that?
Well, because she's saying the right things.
Anyway, point is, critical race theory is really bad, and it leads to some awful things that may be coming to a backyard near you if we don't stop it.
And whenever it's exposed, they rebrand it. Like you saw in the video, it's critical race theory is now SEL. And SEL is probably being changed to something else. You can't just go off of name alone. You have to actually examine what's inside of the name to figure out what it is they're actually teaching. And don't be afraid if you are still going to private schools or public schools, even private schools, don't be afraid to go into your student's classroom and ask the teacher some questions.
Yeah. Parents need to be vigilant, absolutely, if they're going to keep going to public schools. But I am constantly discouraged by this. Like, my kids are getting close to school age, and it's just so depressing thinking about like the malintentions that could be lurking behind those walls. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. You can spend even with homeschooling, you can spend 18 years teaching them at home and teaching them correct values and all this stuff, and then they decide they want to go off to college, and after 2 years in college, it's all erased. The 18 years of work that you did on them. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun world we live in, and this is just stuff that's kind of local. It has nothing to do with all the news recently of war on our doorsteps, as usual.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that stuff in the coming weeks.
Yes, we will. Anyways, any final thoughts?
No, just this is bull crap, and
this is bull crap.
Like, we need to hound our legislatures, but, you know, like, even if we pass laws, those laws have to be enforced. You know, so if people aren't taking upon themselves the responsibilities that are rightfully theirs, the system will fail, and that's basically the story of every system.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's all I got. Oh no. I don't think I have our outro sound. How do I not have our outro sound? No.
Can we make it up on the spot?
Oh,
How does our outro go again? You found it?
I found it.
Oh, okay.
I found it.
I was willing to do it a cappella.
It might be loud. It's not loud. Okay, it's not loud.
And cue the
pause. Pause. Dang it. Pause. Anyway, with all that, do all the subscribing and the liking, even though we are a flawless, well-oiled machine here. With
We're
all
not beneath doing our own sound effects.
No, we are not beneath. Will sound effect for subscriptions. Until next time, bye. I bought the Harry Hogwarts game.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't done that yet. My GameFly subscription expired, and I figured if I were to renew it again, there's a good chance I wouldn't get a copy of the game. So
That's
I
fair.
decided to hold off. I am sitting on a 6-month subscription of GameFly, but you know, if you and Mike bought it, I figured I could just borrow it from you guys at some point.
Well, mine's the digital through Steam is where I got mine.
Oh, I see. All right. Well,
yes.
never mind on your side. I definitely am going to go for the PS5. But, you know, I could always just redeem the 6 months of GameFly and get it in no time flat. You know, but I probably need to wait a month, which it's been like just over a week since it was released.
Yeah. It has been. The reviews are accurate from what I've seen. It's pretty great. Pretty good.
Yeah. I speaking of video games, I upgraded my Steam Deck.
Oh, that's right. That's a thing. I forgot about Steam Deck completely.
Yeah, I think it's really great. So I upgraded it and I went from 64 terabytes internal storage with a 1 terabyte SD card to a 1 terabyte SSD card with a 1 terabyte micro SD card.
It's freaking insane they can have a terabyte on those things.
Yeah, so now the reason I did it is because it's easier to make modifications on the main drive, and 64 gigabytes isn't enough to do anything on the main drive.
Right.
And so now I'm able to play my PlayStation 5 games really easily through through my own network, you know, so I can play PS5 games anywhere in the house. So that's pretty sweet.
Very nice.
And of course I can download more games. But then again, even with the 1 terabyte SD card before the surgery, where I had to open up my Steam Deck, even before that I could hold like 25 games or 30 games or something like that. And I can pass about 15 games on a given year. And that number is probably going to go down as I have, you know, more kids and, you know, more demanding job and that sort of thing.
More time consumed elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So feels kind of funny that I upgraded it, but I still wanted to do it.
I observed something funny with while playing Harry Potter. I don't know if J.K. Rowling intended this or not with the universe that she created, but technologically, wizards aren't more advanced than humanity is.
No, definitely not.
And I was thinking about that because I was thinking, wizards have the ability to just have things do things for them, which should give them plenty of free time to figure other things out. And that's when I realized, oh yeah, we invent technology because we want things to do things for us.
Yeah.
So the wizards have no need to increase their technology as much as the Muggles do.
No, the funny thing is Harry the last Harry Potter book took place I think in like 1999,
right,
or something like that,
right.
And then the sequel happened, or like the epilogue rather, that happened what, like 10 years later, or 15 years later. So that would take it to like 2014 or so.
Right.
And that's the era in which like smartphones became a big thing. So I told my wife this after we finished the Harry Potter books as a couple. I was like, honey, that's the sequel they should write, is the Muggles find out about the wizarding world and they have like proof through smartphones and
satellites and whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah. That should be the Harry Potter sequel.
That should be.
But I would actually say that that's one of the bigger plot holes in the Harry Potter world, is because the Muggles know, like Aunt Petunia knows and has known her whole life.
Right, but they're probably written off as conspiracy theorists, loony whatevers, though.
Yeah.
No, I swear there's a giant castle where a bunch of magical kids go to school. Uh-huh.
Where do you think this subset of the population goes? What boarding school do you think I sent them to?
And you said
Don't give me a truancy ticket.
And you said they get their invitation to this school via owl, was it?
Yes. And we have evidence.
Because, those popular carrier owls, cousins to the carrier pigeon, right?
I look forward to the Harry Potter game.
Yes. Well, let's get started, shall we?
Yeah, sounds good.